working with a client this week, the idea of show blocking came up. And show blocking is something that will instantly upgrade your podcast, which begs the question, what the hell is show blocking? Well, welcome into It's Not Just Talking. I'm executive producer Vince Quinn, here to help you sharpen your production strategy, improve your podcast processes, and build your hosting skills so you can put more time back into your business. And show blocking is one of the most fundamental things of running a show at a high level. And it actually starts for me back when I was in radio. So when I first got a job as a radio producer and I was learning how all of these shows run, one of the first things that happened, I will never forget this. I'm behind the scenes in the producer's booth, and the producer shows me his sheet for the show. And what he had done is, it's a 4-hour show when you're doing the radio. So they had 3 segments per hour. And so what he did on a piece of paper was he literally had 4 columns, so four big columns, and then 3 rows to segment the entire show. And in each block, he had written out, hey, we're going to talk about this thing at the top of this hour, and then this thing is the second segment, and so on and so forth through the entire show, which meant they had all 4 hours totally mapped out. And with that, what they had was the idea of how long each of those segments is. So there's a standard formula for how they do that on the radio every single time. Generally speaking, it would be that it's 20 minutes at the start of the hour. So it's 10 a.m. Welcome into KY. Like, as they're doing all that, they know for 20 minutes they're going to be talking about a major hard-hitting topic, something that's going to have the most reach and the most accessibility, the most bang, if you will. And they're going to cover that for 20 minutes. And then after that, they hit a commercial break. When they come back, you've got another 15-minute segment, so a little more length to follow up and expound and cover some of that ground. And then a third segment that was 10 minutes, and they would then really, you might talk about something else. You might set up something that you're going to get into in the next hour. There's a lot of things that you could do. But the idea was they literally had the entire show mapped out. And do you do that for your podcast? Odds are you don't, right? You might go into it, and a lot of people do this, where when they start the podcast, what happens is they have an idea. They've got some bullet points, and that's what I tell people a lot. We've talked about it on this show at some point. As you're getting ready, you want to figure out the topics, the kinds of things that you're going to talk about, the major opinions that you have. Come up with some bullet points. Like, write those things out and have an idea. But have you planned how long you're going to do that for? Because it makes everything so much easier. And that's the beauty of show blocking, is you have created this template that by laying everything out that you do throughout the entirety of the show, and generally how long these segments are going to be, what it does is it takes this thing of a podcast, which in itself, like doing a show, there's so many things you want to talk about, and there's all this rhythm, and you might have a guest, and then a solo segment, and whatever. Like, to have all of these things, it's hard to fully conceptualize what the show is episode to episode when you don't have it blocked out, because it is so open and free and loose. And by being able to paint by this numbers in a way, by having this show blocking, it just makes it so much easier to go and set it up, because you have an idea of what you're doing every single time. Each part of the show has expectations with it or consistency with it, and that's what you repeat. And if you look around, and I want you to think about this too, because odds are for you to have a podcast, right? You probably listen to some other shows. So think about other major podcasts that are out there. They all have this in different ways. They all have their own version of show blocking. And it's a lot of times for interview shows. Like, for example, I love Mark Maron, right? I've listened to Mark Maron a bunch of times. Mark Maron up front, hey, what the fuckers? What the fuck buddies? How you doing? Like, he's joking around up front, and then he does stand-up, basically, for the first, 10 minutes of the show. And it's just like, yeah, so, me and my cat, we had these weird things going on. You know how cats are. But that's what he does, and you know that. So he comes in, he's giving you the setup, he's doing the stand-up for 10 minutes, and then music hits, we're getting into that interview, and they go bang, right into the interview. And then once that interview's over, they've got that wind down segment. They talk for a couple of minutes, and it's over. But there's consistency to that. And so think about doing that for your show. What are the things that are so important that you need in your show all the time? And that's what show blocking is all about. And to really reinforce some of the ways that this helps you, because I get this way myself, and I have had these problems even doing this show, which is why we are locking down on all of this show blocking. Like, there are a lot of boxes that you want to check when you're doing a podcast. So first off, you want to have a hook, right? As soon as people are getting into the episode, you want to let them know what the episode is about, what you're going to cover. You want to give them an introduction. You want to let them understand, okay, and if this is the first time you're listening to the show, or maybe you've only listened to it once or twice, or it's been a while, this is what the show is about. Thank you for being here, and thank you for listening. And from there, I'm getting into my main segment. I'm going to have a call to action later, because that you have that attention and you want to make sure that, hey, I'm translating this over to my business. There is a connection. These things, there's a real purpose to this. It's a way to advertise and market what you do. So have that call to action. But now you might have been doing episodes and you go, well, shit, I forgot to do the call to action. Well, now it's in the show blocking. So as you're writing out this template, filling it out episode by episode, it's right there. You can't miss it, or you shouldn't miss it. So it's making it easier for you to do those things, to have the proper introduction, to have the proper call to action, and make sure you hit that every single time, to have a proper close to your show and know going in that, hey, this is something that I'm going to talk about and I want to do it in depth. I think the quality of this conversation is better than some of the other conversations that I want to have, the questions I want to explore, the topics I want to talk about. So I'm going to give that one 25 minutes and I'll give this other one 10. Right? Like, see how simple that is. Think about what that'll be for you with these main things that you do in your show that you want to have in your show every single time. This show blocking will make it so, oh, yeah, okay, I'm doing this, and then I'm doing this, and then I'm doing that, and then I'm doing this thing, and then I do this last thing, and great, now we close it. That's routine. And that's the value of show blocking, because you have a lot going on. Being compelling in the moment, creating energy, engaging people with your voice, with your, if you're on video, to have all of these things tied together, it's a lot of work. So you want to think as little as possible about all of the technical stuff. So being able to check your boxes as you're doing all of this, massive value. Just an absolute massive value with show blocking. So I can't recommend it enough. But beyond that, the nice thing about blocking out the show and figuring, okay, this is my A segment, basically. This is my 20 minute. This is my 25 minutes. This is my B segment. This is 10 minutes. It keeps you on time as well. Because one of the problems that people tend to get into is they just totally blow past the clock. And, my episodes are 35 minutes, but they're also 55 minutes. And then sometimes they're an hour and 20 minutes. And if I'm going week by week and one of your episodes is 35 and the other's an hour 20, I don't know what the hell the show is. I don't know what I'm in for. And that hurts you because you put things on knowing what the situation is, how long the show is. For example, just last night, I am rewatching The Last of Us right now. So great show on HBO. And I asked my wife, it's a little bit later in the night. I go, hey, do you want to put on an episode of The Last of Us? And she says, no, I want to go to bed soon. I don't want to stay up that late. Well, she knows it's an hour-long episode. So it's an hour-long commitment. So she's not beginning that process of going to bed until an hour from now. If I'm going to listen to your podcast and you're not keeping that time locked down and you're all over the place and you have massive swings in what these episodes are, I don't know when to put you on. I can't fit you anywhere. I don't naturally understand what your show is and when I should be listening to it because I don't know if I'm going to get through the whole thing or how long it's going to take me to get through the whole thing. So you want that consistency. It doesn't need to be to the minute. It doesn't need to be that tight, but you do want to stay on time and make sure that for all the topics that you have, you're giving them the proper amount of time to fully discuss them because that's the downside too. If you're A block, you think it's going to be 15 minutes, 20 minutes, and instead you go for 35, and now your B block, which you wanted to do for 10 to 15 minutes, you're only doing it for 5. That's a very different conversation. The notes you have, the speed at which you're talking about all of these things, it changes everything. So you want to stay on time and knowing that right up front, hey, this is that segment. This is what we're talking about. This is how long I'm going to talk about it. And then once I'm done talking about it, I'm going to hit the break and throw to an ad. Great. Well, now you've done all of that, and this is a way to make sure that you're doing it properly and consistently because your audience will also know that it's consistent. So that's huge. Another thing for this is the flow of the show, right? Because you know all the different boxes that you're going to check. You're doing this in a rhythm, and you've planned all of this out in advance. So as you're going through and executing all of these things, it is smooth. The more you do it, the easier it is, the more reflexive. You'll have this feeling in your head of, hey, I just finished this segment. I should go to the read. I should give a call to action. Or, hey, it's the intro to the show, so I know it's the intro. I've got this hook, and then I'm going to explain to people what the show is, and then I'm going to bring them in. Like it becomes automatic, which in a sense makes you more confident behind the mic. It makes it smoother, and it's something that the average listener will never be able to fully articulate. They won't be able to explain it to you, but they'll know that it's better than other shows. And that's part of the mastery that this provides because they can feel that familiarity. They know the consistency. They feel how smooth it is as you're doing all of these things and checking all of these boxes and staying in these time frames and keeping it moving. It's the same idea every time. And this isn't even just for podcasting, right? Like if you want to look at across the board, when it comes to show blocking, how this works, look at other TV shows. For example, Brooklyn Nine-Nine is a show that I absolutely love, and I've been watching a ton of that recently. Brooklyn Nine-Nine has a cold open. So like 9 times out of 10 when that show starts, it's a 30-second comedy bit. And they do some silly one-off joke that has nothing to do with the rest of the episode. And then, bang, they hit the intro, and you're off to the races. But you know what that is. So look around at the shows that you enjoy, the television you watch, the podcasts you listen to, even the YouTube channels that you follow. They're going to have something that you could, on your own, go and block it out. You could see the blocks that they're using. And I guess to take that a step further, you might be asking, well, wait, no, how do I do this, though? Like, how you're talking about all these different things. It all sounds great, Vince. This all sounds interesting. I would love to do show blocking, but what do I do? Do I need a special program? Like, how does this all work? And here's what I want you to do. I want you to go back and think about the story that I was talking about in radio, where it's a sheet of paper. And that's all it was. It was a loose sheet of paper. It was actually a garbage piece of paper. Like, it was an ad read that had been printed on one side, and they were going to throw it out. And rather than throw it out, he took the back of that piece of paper, and he started to block the show out on that. So, and that's how I did it. So it can be scraps of paper saying, hey, okay, this is my intro, and that segment is going to be 1 minute. Because it's going to be very simple and to the point, or it's going to be 5 minutes, and I'm going to draw it out like that. But yeah, just do it on a piece of paper. Like, it can be that simple. As I was going through this a little bit with Taylor, so playing around with some ideas, I did it in Microsoft Paint. As I'm doing it for this episode right now, as I'm experimenting with things, I'm doing it in Canva. So it's just wherever you can get some idea of the visual, because I think the visual is very helpful, and have your outline with that. So literally draw the blocks, write in those blocks what's going to happen, and put it in order and follow through. That's it. Like, there's so many ways that you can go about it. So that's how you do it. And in a minute, I'm going to break down some of these standard show blocking templates, which feels a little meta in a sense. But let's talk about some of those standard time blocks that you can apply to your show based on a lot of the common themes that I see out there in podcasting. So we'll do that in just a moment, and we'll give you an update on what's happening with us. So what's going on with me, what's going on with Taylor, just a little bit of the behind-the-scenes stuff. So that's all up in just a second. If you're listening to this, chances are that your business podcast is struggling, but you're not sure what's holding it back. That's why I created the Podcast Compass Quiz. And in just 5 minutes, you'll get clarity on what's working, what's not, and where to focus your energy next. Best part? It's completely free.
So hit the link in the show notes to take the quiz now.
Let's get into blocking 101, if you will. And let's talk about some basic guidelines that you can use to go and block out your show. So a lot of times, podcasts these days are typically in the 35 to 45 minute range, right? So it's a lot of interviews, especially from the B2B side. You're getting a guest, you're bringing them on, you're talking with them for a while, and you go and wrap the show. So I want you to think about this from that interview standpoint of this is the main, most important topic I want to cover with this person. The second block is the second most important topic that I want to cover, like the second area. And the third one is, if we have time for it, these are some of the other final things that I would like to ask about, just random pot shots here and there. So your third segment can be, and all of this can be a little more flexible when it comes to interview shows, but the same thing. It's what's most important, what's a little less important, what's the least important, and divide your time appropriately. Take care of the clock appropriately, and make sure that if you have a call to action that's in the middle of the episode, that you do that call to action. You set the room for it so that you can make it happen. Because again, you want to promote your stuff. You've got people's attention. You want to drive them places and maximize the value of this content. That's why you do it. So check that box and make sure it's in that interview. But yeah, 25 minutes up top, right? Yeah, odds are you intro the show, you come in and you're saying, hey, welcome in. Here's my guest today. And there you go. Like, start talking. But 25, 10, and 5. That's going to get you in the ballpark. So the way that's laid out, it's 40 minutes. And I think that's right square in the middle of what a lot of people do when it comes to an interview show. So think about it, 25, 10, and 5. And for a non-interview show, whether that's you solo or especially if you have a co-host, a lot of people will tend to go longer. So that's what you'll want to do. You have the intro up front. You go for 20, 25 minutes on that first segment. You do 10 in the second. You do 5 in the third. And it can be as rigid or as loose as you want these segment transitions to be. So let me give you an example. If you're thinking about watching the news on TV, right? So when they come in, what they're going to do is, well, welcome in, ladies and gentlemen, our top story tonight. And then they immediately go into all of that, and they cover that for quite a while. But then eventually they're going to get to traffic, and they're going to get to weather. Like, those are very hard, defined. They've got special elements to transition from the top story into the weather, into the traffic. Like, it's very specific. It doesn't have to be like that. If you have those elements and they are branded things that are different, great. Like, play around with that, have fun, let the audience know as you're moving from segment to segment that that's what you're doing. Hey, we're going to get to this segment now, and people know what that segment is and have a good idea of how long that segment is, how it flows. But that's how you want to treat this. That's how you want to look at these boundaries, these separators, as you're blocking out the show. And again, to start, we've been talking about 25, 10, and 5. Now, the other side of this, and this is more particularly for interview shows, but a common theme is very similar to what I mentioned with Mark Maron earlier in the episode. Same thing, Conan O'Brien, for example. I love Conan. I will mention Conan a million times on the show. It just is what it is. That is my guy. But when he does his podcast, they have a quick, goofy little intro, and that's this whole pre-produced thing. Takes 30 seconds, maybe. Then they go into banter, so just talking about whatever, cracking jokes and having a good time without the guest. They do that for 10 minutes. Then about 40 minutes or so is your interview and going wherever that interview takes you, and then wrapping up the show in 5 to 10 minutes. So for interview blocking then, because again, the first section was like 35 to 40 minutes, so you're talking 25, 10, 5. This is more closer to an hour, so you're talking 10 up front, 40 in the middle, and then another 5 to 10 on the back end. Obviously, you don't need to be strict to the minute of, I'm filling this exact hour, but that gives you a ballpark of, okay, this is the flow of the show, this is how we're setting it up front, and same thing. Audiences are familiar with this kind of formatting. They understand this. You've listened to shows that do this template. So it's nothing crazy, it's nothing uncomfortable, and it should do wonders for your show because, again, you want to check the boxes. You want the proper intro. You want to tell people who you are and what the show is about. You want to make sure that you've got these calls to action. You want to make sure that you're setting everything up along the way so that you have this trust, you have this consistency, and people keep coming back and enjoying the show. So that's the way to look at it. And if you're anywhere outside of those ranges, hey, Vince, I do a 10-minute show. I do a 2-hour show. No problem. Think of other shows that you like. What are inspirations that are out there? And I am actively challenging you to find those shows, listen to them, and try to block them out as you listen. Get a feel for when they transition. When do they do that? How deep into the episode is it? Is that pretty consistent that they're doing it? I bet you it is. And can you apply that to your show? But there's nothing wrong with doing that either, right? This is basic formatting. This is just how stuff works. When it comes to television or movies, what you typically hear is the 3-act story, right? So you have a rising action and you have some conflict, and then you get to the point where everything resolves, and then you have this big climax. So after the climax, they wrap it up and they finish the episode or they finish the movie. That's just a principle of storytelling. You're not stealing from anybody. So to listen to these shows, to get an idea of how they block it out and see how you can apply that to you, you're not overstepping. You're not being grimy in any way. Like, this is totally clean. It's totally basic. And again, it's going to make your life easier. It's going to make the audience more comfortable, and it's going to improve your show. So that is everything when it comes to show blocking, which means that, Taylor, it's time to talk about us.
Hey,
how you doing, sir?
I'm good. There's a lot of exciting stuff to talk about.
Well, there is. So, yeah, and if you've been paying attention, I mean, we're always posting all the time. Like, I'm always really active on LinkedIn. We're always posting things on Instagram. So we have the newsletter. So there's a lot of stuff going on. But to give you an update of something that we did recently, so really cool moment. We did a speaking event. So we have a partnership with Indie Hall, which Indie Hall is a co-working space at Spring Garden, like basically second in Spring Garden is the location. And we did a whole thing about guest speaking or guesting on podcasts. And a couple of people in the room really engaged, about a 45-minute conversation, I want to say. And Taylor, I hadn't told you this, but the cool thing about this for me was, I mean, one, I like to teach. Like, that's what the show is, and that's just kind of how I am. But somebody sat in, they asked me a couple of questions after the thing ended so that they were active in the Q&A, and then they decided to go and set up their own guest profile. They asked me to go check it out. It looked immaculate, like they really did a great job. And so now they're on their way to being a guest. Like, it's seeing moments like that, being able to tie these things together where, like, you can help people in a dedicated community and see that impact. I love that, man. Like, it just felt like such a beautiful thing of what we're trying to do and really what Indie Hall is trying to do.
Yeah, I think that's props to you too as well, because towards the end of your presentation, you literally laid up, hey, this is exactly how I did it, how I set all this up, and this is exactly what I want you to do. So you're literally showing exactly how you should do it. And then, within a week, he already has his own setup. Right? It took him less than a week. Yeah, it's beautiful.
Yeah, so it came together really well, and I'm excited to see where it goes for them. So good luck out there, Dane. All the best to you as you go and figure out the guest landscape and get yourself out there. But yeah, so that was really cool. And I think the other side too, like, if you could break down just a little bit, Taylor, of what you've done with the events, because obviously from a promotional standpoint, like these events, not just community impact, but like materials, I don't know, marketing materials, if you will.
Sure,
there's a lot we can do with it.
Yeah, so this is something that we could do better ourselves even, but granted, whenever we have an event, I'll always be there making sure I'm getting a copy of recording, so Vince doing the actual presentation. I'll be able to sneak some pictures of people interacting after the presentation's done, the networking moments. But yeah, just being able to showcase this is something that we also do, live presentations. You get, very natural moments of people interacting with each other, and then can also reuse clips from that presentation, and I mean reuse actual parts of the presentation, or just have that footage with a different voiceover. It's like, hey, we did this thing here. Like, there's plenty of different things you can have with it. So anytime that you have, any kind of gathering like that, just make sure you have some type of recording, because you never know, we could reuse it down the line.
Yeah, because everybody can say like, hey, I'm making an impact and people love me and we're doing all this cool stuff. But like, every picture is just you alone in an office.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
it's tough. And it is great that we can do this together. I think that's one of the best values, honestly, because like, I am terrible at thinking about taking pictures like that in the moment. Like, hey, here I am with this person, so let's take a selfie or something like that. Like, I don't think about it. And even if I did, part of it feels uncomfortable to me. Like, it's not natural. And I almost feel like, because naturally I wouldn't do it. Like, if it was just me out in the world and I didn't have a business, I don't care about social media like that on a personal level. I know the business value, so that's that. But I'm not active on Instagram. Like, I'm hardly there on a personal side. TikTok doesn't exist to me. Facebook, so I don't do it. But for you to be there and be that second set of eyes and get those pictures where it is like organic, it's me actually talking to somebody and engaging with them. I mean, it's such a boost.
It's a candid shot versus, something where like you're arranging everybody, like, all right, everybody come together. Like, when you get a candid shot, like, that's a natural moment, and those are the real pictures that you remember, all the candid moments. So yeah,
it's just a lot better. And to see how that stuff eventually, not just on the social media channels, but being able to incorporate things like that as we continue to grow here and do more events, like putting that on the website and having that in the newsletter and in different handouts that we have and everything else. Like, it gets so much easier, and it gives you so many more options too. Because if we're having clips where we're talking about certain stuff, like, eventually we'll have B-roll of me at events from pictures or footage that you can incorporate into those like studio style things we're doing like this. And the potential of that is great. Like, it just adds a whole new element to things, and I think it adds some credibility as well. And, obviously everybody needs that in a business.
Yeah, and just anytime you think, if there's ever like assumption like, oh, there might be something cool happening at me going here, or whatever you're doing, just have a camera set up to the side. Like, worst case scenario is you just delete a video that you didn't think you'd use, you know what I mean? And then best case scenario is something that's going to be useful for you for whatever marketing idea or repurposing idea that you have down the line. So it doesn't hurt just to think about setting something up, and that's something that we don't do as much either. So it's also look in the mirror with, all the stuff that we have going on, but, something to always have on top of mind. So something we can work on ourselves, but everybody else should be thinking about it too.
Yeah. So if you need recommendations for that kind of thing, shoot us a DM. Like, reach out to us. Taylor especially is really active on the Instagram account, so you can hit us up there. And if you have questions about equipment, cameras, tripods, all that stuff, like, we definitely can help with those things. So just let us know what you're looking for, and let's figure it out. Because that's what this is all about. Like, as much as we mainly focus in podcasting, we understand all of this equipment, and we want to help you succeed. So we want to help your business. So how can we do that? So hit us up. But with that, it's been so nice to block out this episode, Taylor. I mean, our structure, phenomenal. The calls to action, the teases, the intros. It's just...
And we're right on time.
That's right. How about that? So very smooth, very clean, very simple. Thank you so much. Please block out your shows. Work on that. Evaluate it. Check those boxes, baby, because we just did, and we'll see you next time.
Thanks for listening to the show. Make sure to subscribe to the newsletter to get more podcast insights. That link is in the show notes. And if you're feeling stuck with your podcast, let's figure it out together. Book a free 10-minute chat with me. The link to do that is also in the show notes. Talk to you next week.